Today I want to talk about variegated plants. I think this talk will help people to grow them better, fuller, help you to be happier with what you've got, but also how to think about buying them when you're seeing them in the store and questioning, is this the right one or should I go for something else? So variegated plants, and you can't really have a talk about variegated plants without having a talk about light. So let me begin by giving just a general statement about light, and that's this. The more light or the most light you can give a plant, the healthier, fuller, and stronger that plant's going to be. And why is that? Because light, as probably everybody knows, triggers photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process in which a plant is actually feeding itself. So the more light you can give a plant, the more those processes are successfully firing, and the healthier that plant is going to be. So the more light you can give a plant, obviously there's a balance, but the more light you can give a plant, the healthier that plant is going to be. But also, it's true that the more light you can give a plant, the more variegated it's going to be. And why is that? What's the reasoning that more light would make more variegation? What's this? If you take, for example, this variegated monstera and grow it in not enough light, the plant is going to understand that, and it's going to put all of its energies into pushing green leaves. The green, the chlorophyll, that has to do with the feeding process, the photosynthetic processes. So when this plant knows that it's not getting enough light, it's going to push green leaves. Why green leaves? Because the white portions of the variegation have no photosynthesis, and they will not contribute to feeding that plant. They won't. They're just not beneficial to the plant. So again, the most light you can give a plant, the healthier, fuller, more vibrant it will be, but also more variegated. The plant can relax some because the green tissues will feed the white tissues. That in mind, that feeding transaction, whenever a variegated plant becomes stressed, the white tissue is what gets dropped first, and you've probably noticed this in your own growing. And why is that? Again, it's a process of the plant itself. If the plant is getting too much light or not enough light, or too much or too little water, or the temperature's wildly off, the plant knows this isn't working right, and it will eliminate leaves that have too much white pigment in them, because those portions of the leaf aren't contributing to the health of the plant. So there's definitely balance, but thinking that way, that the more light you can give a plant, the healthier, fuller, more vibrant it will be, but also the more variegated it will be. Bright light sustains what's actually a mutation. Bright light sustains the mutation that adds the white to the plant itself. So what does this have to do with buying a variegated plant? Well, let me show you this Euphorbia lactea, I think sometimes called white ghost. You've probably seen these before. Many people have seen them before. If you look at this stem right here, it looks fairly well white or off-white, almost yellowish. You can, I doubt that the camera will pick this up, you can see that beneath the outer pigment there's a dark layer. That would be some chlorophyll in there. But more importantly, you can see there's this streak of green going up. It also has a splotch of green there, and the arms in general have some chlorophyll going up the sides. That's important because this is a plant that's going to grow. It'll be healthier and more vibrant. Why? Because it has that chlorophyll and it can continually feed itself. It's also, the chlorophyll is well distributed throughout the plant. So it's not just that everything is white and then there's one green splotch, but that there's a little bit of green chlorophyll throughout the plant. I've had this particular species many times in the past, and I've tried growing the whitest of the white, or the off-whitest of the white, and it can definitely be done. I've taken cuttings just like this and can root them, but as for growing them, they will be very, very slow. Why? Because they can't feed themselves nearly as well as the rest of the plant, which does have some chlorophyll throughout. So when you're thinking about buying a variegated plant, do look for a little bit of chlorophyll in the leaf or the arms or the branches or whatever it is. Look for some of that, and know then that because of that green, the plant is most likely to just be an easier plant to grow. Still beautiful, still interesting, still has that mutation, but less likely to fall apart when stress happens. I mentioned that, and I've been thinking about this talk because this is a variegated Alocasia Friedeck, and I think it was last month maybe that we had several of these for sale, and one of them had just a really, really pretty white leaf. And I had thought about doing this video prior to that event. I didn't get around to it, but I did meet the person who bought that plant and talk to them about the very thing I'm talking to you about. That plant, I wanted the person to know how to think about lighting for that plant and what that white actually means. Because I think a lot of people will buy a plant like that thinking how beautiful that leaf is, but not knowing that if the growing, if you're lax with taking care of the plant, that leaf, that beautiful white leaf, is going to be the first one to kick the bucket. So I wanted to let them know that the more light you can give a plant, the healthier that plant is going to be. Now, I want to highlight again the troubles, or what stressors are they that make white leaves drop or brown at the edges, or whatever else might happen to them. And it's always going to be a result of their environment. So light is, as I mentioned, light not only contributes to the variegation, but also obviously the general health of the plant. It doesn't matter if it's a shade plant or a sun plant or a medium plant or another shade plant. Light is the sun makes the world go round. So making sure that the light is right. If the light's not right, you can lose the variegation. Another thing that stresses plants, obviously, is the water. If you let a plant go too dry, if you let an Alocasia variegated Friedeck, for example, go too dry, when it senses or understands that stress, the first thing that you're going to see is the white portion of the leaf is going to start turning brown around the edges. This one hasn't yet. I'm just showing you where it will happen. So if it dries out too much, or if it stays soggy too long, the plant itself is going to understand that, recognize that, and it's going to take action. And that action is going to be making that beautiful variegation disappear. Temperature is obviously a thing. If a plant is too cold, that also is stress. And humidity for a lot of tropicals is a thing. If you're growing them in a very dry room, chances are good that that variegation is going to fade away. So monitor humidity, monitor your watering. Don't water plants so much when you feel like they want to drink, but when you've tested them with a moisture meter, or however you do it, make sure that they actually want to drink. And you'll have a healthier, more vibrant, and more variegated plant. One way to think about growing tropicals in general, with that thought of the most light you can give a plant, the healthier, fuller, and more variegated it will be, is to consider an east window. Most of the year, the east window in your home, unless there's another house blocking the sun or a tree outside your window, whatever it may be, usually the east facing window is going to get a few hours of direct light, and then that room will probably have decent indirect light the rest of the day. So you can grow any tropical plant at all in an east facing window. It can handle, you read all the time, bright indirect light, and here I am suggesting you put it in the direct light of morning sun. The thing to think about, though, is that morning sun is just less intense, and the plant can handle it quite well. If you've got a south-facing window, this time of year in the winter, you can probably get away with your plant being fairly close to that southern sun, but in the summer it's very likely too hot, so set it away from the window. Don't let it sit in that long intense afternoon sun, or that variegation will increase for a minute just before the plant drops dead. Artificial lighting, obviously, if you've got just no good windows, a way to think about artificial lighting, without cooking your plants, is to start with that light probably 18 or so inches above the plant itself. Even with artificial lighting, even if the light itself isn't very high quality, you can certainly cook plants easily enough, and tropicals are going to be easier to cook than succulents, and variegated tropicals, as I'm saying, are going to be even easier to cook. So using artificial lighting, start with it about 18 inches above. This is assuming you're using something like a 100 watt or 100 watt equivalent light. There are obviously some of those rectangular lights with 10 billion little LEDs under. Those can often be 1,000 watts or more. With those, I would probably want to start maybe even 3 feet above, and then adjust as you watch the plant. So say you've got that light 3 feet above your fry deck. Watch it for a couple of weeks. Watch the leaves. Is there any browning going on? Is there anything going on with the tips of the plants? Any spots? Anything else? And if not, then it's likely safe, again, after a couple of weeks, to move that light down a little bit closer. But do it incrementally if you're able to do that, so that you don't want to go from 3 feet down to 6 inches. Do it incrementally, a few inches or so at a time, to make sure that you are not going to cook that plant. But doing that, that's working with artificial light, kind of based on the statement that I started out with and have repeated a couple of times, that the most light you can give a plant, the healthier, more vibrant that plant is going to be, but also the more variegated. So the closer you can get that light, slowly, incrementally, the better the variegation is going to be, because the healthy parts of the leaf, the green chlorophyll-filled parts of the leaf, are going to be able to sustain themselves quite easily, and they'll be able to sustain that white tissue as well. So that is a little bit about variegated plants, how to think about taking care of them, how to think about what to look for when you're buying them, and a little bit about how to think about lighting. I hope that helps.